Bonjour, French one. Today's lesson will be all about contractions with the word de. Now, we've covered contractions before, but they were contractions with the word a. The word a, remember, meant to or at, and we used it when we were talking about going to or being at places. The whole idea of a contraction is whenever two words are next to each other, they combine into one different word, such as the words can and not become can't. Usually it means deleting a couple letters, maybe putting an apostrophe, things like that in the English language. In the French language, this happens when a, the word to or at, is next to certain words. Remember from our previous sections, if a and le are next to each other because you want to go to the masculine place, because again, this is the masculine form of the. A and le do not occur right next to each other. They always squish together and become o. So if you wanted to go to the cafe, you would not go à le café, you would go au café. Allah, however, does not have a contraction. So if you want to go to the feminine place, this being the feminine form of the here, you would go à la, like the library is la bibliothèque. So if you wanted to go to the library, you go à la bibliothèque. If a place starts with a vowel, such as école, the word for school, the that's right before that of L apostrophe and the a do not contract also. So if you want to go to the school, you go à l'école. And if you want to go to a plural place, if it's something such as les magasins, the stores, a and les could never be next to each other. They always squished together and became o. So if you wanted to go to the stores, you would go au magasin instead of a les, because that cannot happen in the French language. Something very similar happens with the word de, and here's your words to fill in, by the way. The word de cannot be next to certain words without kind of smushing together and becoming a new word. The reason why we want to know the word de is because it means of or from. Now, the way that this comes up in the family member vocabulary is you'll talk about how he is the father of my friend, or I am the sister of this other person. So the word de comes up a lot, and I know we don't always say that in English. A lot of times we use apostrophe s's and say so-and-so's sister, and we use an apostrophe s, but in French they say the sister of that person. So these are some words you're going to need to know to be able to describe family members. If the word de comes before a masculine word and therefore has a le right after it, this cannot happen in the French language. De and le always squish together to become du. So if it is the brother of the father, then it is le frère instead of de le père of the father, le frère du père. Again, because father is masculine, you'd want to use du for your of the father. De la, though, is totally okay, just like how Allah was. So if you have the brother of the mother, and you would say le frère de la mère, and you don't have any contractions or changes there of the being in the feminine form, mother. If you have a word that starts with a vowel, such as the wife of the uncle, that kind of thing, oncle is the word that starts with a vowel. De and L apostrophe do not contract. So you have la femme de l'oncle, and you don't have to change anything. But if by chance you have something like the parents of the friends, or something that is plural, de and les can never happen right next to each other. They always squish together and become des. So you would say les parents, and not de les amis, but des amis, of the friends. Plural, because friends would be plural. This usually works better whenever I can actually show you examples, so let's go ahead and talk about this right now. So if you wanted to say something like the desk of the teacher is brown, and you wanted to say of the teacher, normally you would say of, which is de, and then you would say the for a masculine teacher, which would be le. But if you check your chart there, remember de and le can never happen right next to one another. So if you wanted to say of the for something masculine like teacher, you would say du. So on this next one, what are they like? The parents of Marie's cousin. All right. So basically, we want to say of the cousin. So of the would be de. The for something feminine like cousin would be la. And if you check your chart, that is not one that you actually have to contract. So for this next one, what is she like, or she is how, the mother of the friend of Luke? Okay, so we want to say of the for friend. Now, if you don't want to work through the steps like I've been, you could just look at the word after the blank. And if you notice that friend is a word that starts with a vowel, right off the bat, that form that comes before something that starts with a vowel is de L apostrophe. All right, so for this last one, depending on how you want to work through it, how is the father of the brothers, of the Dubois brothers, is what you're saying. But the word right after this is brothers. So you can either look at that and know that it's plural, or you can think to yourself, self, I need to say of, and then I need to say the for something plural like brothers, and then you can correct yourself and say, oh wait, de and they can never be next to each other, it's got to be de. The other way to think about it is you can literally just look at the chart and say, hey, brothers is plural, and go ahead and write down the plural form. I know this seems a little bit vague at first and a little strange because they are such small, seemingly meaningless words, but they do play a big part whenever you're identifying somebody that belongs to somebody else or is related to somebody else. So they're important to know for this chapter. Bring these notes with you to class, though, and we'll clarify more and work with it more in class.